Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Do not think that I have come to do away with the law of Moses and the teachings of the prophets. I have not come to do away with them, but to make their teachings come true. Remember that as long as heaven and earth last, not the least point nor the smallest detail of the law will be done away with, not until the end of all things. So then whoever disobeys even the least important of the commandments and teaches others to do the same will be least in the kingdom of heaven. On the other hand, whoever obeys the law and teaches others to do the same will be great in the kingdom of heaven. I tell you then that you will be able to enter the kingdom of heaven only if you are more faithful than the teachers of the law and the Pharisees in doing what God requires. The Gospel of the Lord.
Sometimes when we think of the lives of the saints, we think it must be such a boring life. The whole time, quietly to ourselves, dull, our heads down. But that's not true. To be a saint is to live the fullness of life. To be a saint is to be, not just to be human, Pope Francis says, but to be more than human. Because living a human life, we're all living, but to live more than human is to live with the power that comes from God. More, you're living at a different level. The fullness of life. And so it's a happy life. A life that once people look at you and say, wow, what is it that is in you? I wish I can be like you. Why are you always happy? How can you manage through all the difficulties and troubles you go through? You say, I'm just living the fullness of my Christian faith. And that is Christianity for us. The first reading that we heard just now, so beautiful, it says, since we are surrounded by this cloud of witnesses, let us run with perseverance the race that's set before us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. So, first of all, we're surrounded by this cloud of witnesses. When we are living our Christian life, we are not living it on our own strength alone. Just imagine you're on this huge stadium, some stadium in Nasik, a huge one. All the grandstands, and you can see Abraham and Isaac and St. Francis of Assisi, Don Bosco, whose feast was yesterday, a wonderful saint, Ignatius of Loyola, all these great saints, and they're all there cheering you. Come on, Tommy, come on, Johnny, come on, Susie, come on, Ashok, and whoever you are. Come on, keep running the race, and they're cheering and they're praying for you and they're encouraging you. And in those grandstands, Pope Francis tells us, we have our mummies and daddies have gone ahead, our grandparents who lived ordinary lives in an extraordinary way, saintly lives. And they are there in heaven, those have gone ahead, cheering us and saying, we have reached here, now you run this race. And in among those saints also, you have the very simple, humble people living next door who maybe no one ever knows, but they live the fullness of life. And they too are cheering us. And Pope Francis reminds us again and again in that lovely letter that he's written, that we must desire to be saints. And we have all these wonderful saints to cheer us and tell us, go on living it. So we're surrounded by this cloud of witnesses. Now, let us run with perseverance the race that's set before us. What does it mean? Do you decide at some time in your life that I want to become a saint? Do you get a new vocation to become a saint? No. The day of your baptism was a day it was decided that you would live a saintly life. The day of your baptism. Already the moment you were baptized, you were immersed into the waters and you came out. Now your journey to live a saint. Unfortunately, I said, sometimes we have lived mediocre lives. Now, how is everything? Nice. Nice is no. Christianity is not to live Okay, a good life. No, you're called to live the best possible life. The fullness of life. And that's what you're called to be. So from the day of your baptism, but you say, saint, my God, I can never be like that saint. Unfortunately, very often the lives of the saints that have been portrayed before us, we have shown only the good part of their lives. We don't have time to give you, but when you see the lives of the saints, all the saints that we glorify, we also know their struggles to live the good life. And we must realize it wasn't easy for them. Even they had their difficulties and struggles even to be saints. But they didn't live on their own strength. I said they lived through the strength of God. So don't just get, the saints are our models, of course, but realize that they too struggled. And they carried on living the wonderful lives that they lived because, not me, Lord. It is you who have done it. So then, now let us run with perseverance the race that's set before us, looking to Jesus. That's what it says, looking to Jesus. For us, we have only one direction. So you're running your 100-meter sprint. Right ahead of us, we have Jesus. So I place before you 3 little steps to become that wonderful saint that you are already called to be. Every one of you, every single one of you, including myself. So what are those 3 steps? First is, and I want you to remember this, okay? Because after communion, I'm going to ask you, and let's see if you remember. And I'm going to check if Father Trevor remembers also. Okay? And Father Terry. So the first is the way. What is it? Who is the way? Jesus. So for us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter, for us, we only look to Jesus. Because he is the fullness of life, and every saint took him as the model. So looking to Jesus. You say, but that's all. St. Ignatius of Loyola wrote a book called The Spiritual Exercises 450 years back. And it's a 30-day retreat. And during those 30 days, in complete silence, praying the whole day, all that he places before us in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 is the life of Christ. And he says, take this incident of the life of Christ, meditate on it the whole day. Take this incident, meditate on it the whole day. Just Jesus. An innumerable amount of saints, and the hundreds who are canonized in heaven, have become saints simply doing this exercise. Taking the life of Jesus, looking at it and seeing the life of Jesus, saying, I want to be like Jesus. And Ignatius says, if you want that, then you pray to him that you become like him. So for us, the first is the way, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. You might say Jesus and, then wait. It can't be Jesus and. If you're saying Jesus and, then you're not Christian. Because for us, there's only one way. The way, not a way. The way. Get this very clear, my dear brothers and sisters, because actually this is the only thing I have to say. Everything else I'm saying is just commentary. So Jesus and Jesus alone. So Jesus, but okay, sometimes I go a little here, sometimes I make a little more money, and that is my center. If that becomes your center, then no, Jesus is not your center. Family becomes Jesus and my family. No, no, no. Jesus. Through Jesus, everything else. So, the way. Second is my way. What is the second? My way. So now Jesus is living the fullness of life, a billion, like he's a multifaceted diamond. Billion sides of a diamond. And all of us can't live it. Because Jesus is just the fullness. But we can live one aspect of that fullness of the life of Christ. And that is my way, which Jesus calls us. So each one of us, 1.3 billion Christians upon the earth, each called to live their own way. My way is not your way, and your way is not his way. His way is not her way. You find your way. And how do you know your way? What do you like to do? What is it that fills you with joy? What is it for which you live for? What is it for which you'll die for? It may be, some will say, I'm a teacher and I love my teaching. Some, I'm a banker, and some might say, I'm a housewife, and some might be, I'm a house husband, or whatever you are. But more important, it's not so much doing, it's who you are. So for some of you, it'll be, I just love loving. Or for another, it may be, generosity. Or for another, it may be patience. For another, it may be surrendering. For another, it may be humility. You're getting what I'm saying? Each one of us have our special quality written in our hearts. And you don't have to search for it. You know it because it's you. It's something that fills you with joy. They said, something for which you live and something for which you'll die, something which comes naturally to you, but I'm not saying it's easy. It may be difficult, but you love it. And that's why I said you might be ready to die for it also. That is your way of following Jesus. You say, Jesus, this is you. And if your call is humility, you will always see Jesus as the humble Jesus. If your quality is loving, you'll always see Jesus as the one who went out loving people. You're getting the point? So first is the way. The second is my way. Find, and you must find your way. You know it, but until you bring it out to the full, realize it to the full, you won't live it out. And the third is the little way. What is the little way? There was a girl, very young girl, and she wanted to become a saint. But she was very simple, very, very sickly. In fact, finally she died at the age of 23. And her whole life, most of it was in bed. But she said, I want to become a saint. And then she realized, I can't be like these great saints, you know. Francis Xavier, who went and did so much good here, and Francis of Assisi here, and Dominic Savio, and Don Bosco. I can't be like them. And then she said, I will become a saint living the little way. And what is it? Whatever I do, I will do with much love. That is her way. And she became a saint. Saint Teresa of the child Jesus, infant Jesus. So whatever you do it with much love. So, 3 steps. First is the way. So only Jesus, your focus has to be very clear. Second is my way of being Jesus. Some it will be humility. I say some it will be patience. Some it will be peace. Some it will be love. Whatever's your way. And the third is little way. Let me end with a little story. Pope Francis gives it to us. I'm putting it in our own little context. So the masala is mine, the essence is his. There's a lady who's coming back from work, and the boss was really made her work very hard. It's very late, and she's really tired. And she's coming back from work, and as she's coming home, she first has to go to the bazaar to buy all food stuff to make food. She's really tired and she's carrying those 2 heavy bags after a whole day's work. And as she's walking through the market, she sees her friends in the corner. And some of them, Tommy, James, and Susie, Candy, all of them. And they're all there and they know, they're sitting down and having a cup of chai. And she knows they like to stand there and gossip, And she's so tempted, let's hear what's the latest happening in the village. And she said, no, I'll go home. So she goes home, and at the entrance of the building, the watchman is there, and she says, Ramu, how are you? And how's your son? You told me he had a fever. She knows Ramu by name. She knows her son, who's in the Gao, has a fever. Concern. And Ramu's so happy she's concerned. She comes home, and when she comes home, her daughter opens the door and says, Mommy, I have something to tell you. And here she's tired, she's just waiting to cook food and go to sleep. And she wants to tell her, tomorrow is Saturday. Let's talk about it after breakfast. But looking at her daughter, she can see her daughter just wants to share right now. So she says, yeah, come. And she takes her into the hall and she sits and her daughter for 45 minutes to an hour, she just shares out something that has been going on within her. And then of course she cooks the meal, and after that, She sits there, goes into a corner when the family is all asleep, takes out her rosary, sits down and says, Mother Mary, my daughter just shared with me that she wants to become a doctor. Wonderful. But where am I going to get the money? Where am I going to get the money? You help me. And she says the rosary and goes to sleep. What you see is a simple life lived extraordinarily. 4 opportunities which she could have lost. Her friends gossiping. Okay, everybody gossips. No. Watchman could have passed him by. He's supposed to watch. He's the watchman. I'm not supposed to be watching him and his children. Concern. The daughter, she could have spoken to her tomorrow, Saturday, full day. But she wants it now. And 4th, finally, I can't manage. Mother Mary, take it to Jesus the only way. Take it to Him. You see? So simple to become a saint. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, let's see if we remember. First of all, the way. Second, third, you're all on your way to heaven to become saints. God bless you.